Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a new video of StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. Today we're gonna be discussing a game that Jaedong played last night versus StarTail's So last night in the WCS America round of 8, Jaedong decided to go for a Roach Drop versus Terran. We are gonna go full in depth on the Zerg versus Terran build order, on the actual way to execute it, what the risks are, and how you should probably execute this if you want to win versus your Terran opponent. Now it is very important to note that this build order is meant to straight up kill your opponent. If you don't manage to do so, your opponent will quite easily be able to sit back on his 3 command centers, which he should be having at that point, and he can just macro behind it once more. This is a complete all-in. You will need to kill your opponent right away. You don't have a third base, you don't have double upgrade, you don't have crease spread, you don't have anything of that. So if you do not kill your opponent, accept the risk already in your mind, once you're doing this, that if it fails, you will actually lose this game. Now the counter side obviously to this is that you may be able to kill your opponent within 10 minutes time because it catches them completely off guard. So let's talk a little bit about why this Roach Drop versus Terran currently works. Right at this very point in StarCraft 2, all Terran players are pretty much assuming they are gonna be playing a macro game. This means that they're gonna get early 3 command centers up and they're gonna be macroing as much as they can while doing a little bit of aggression with like Hellions, maybe into a little bit of a drop, and you know, eventually they will start moving out and cranking out a never-ending push where they will just go on to the 3rd base or the 4th base of the Zerg, and that is basically what their plan is for the game. Now the way this builder actually takes advantage of that is by eliminating the defense that they have. They will always defend at the natural using bunkers, using building placement, all that kind of jazz, and with this Roach push you will obviously load your Roaches into Overlord. You actually fly them into the main, completely bypassing the natural SimCity as well as the bunkers. So let's have a look at the actual build order. So here we go, Jaedong decides to open up with the Hatchery first around the 15 supply mark. So he decides to put that drone down to the natural around the 200 minerals, he grabs one from the mineral line and he will make that into a Hatchery right at the natural. Then he will drone up until 17 supply and he will grab a drone from the mineral line and make it into an Extractor. After that he saves up minerals and goes at the 200 mineral mark straight for a spawning pool. So far it's been a Hatchery, into a gas, into a spawning pool, completely standard opener right there for ZVT. Once the Extractor finishes, he puts drones in there right up and he will also start an Overlord around the 17 supply mark. Once the spawning pool finishes, he will start 2 queens, 1 in the main, 1 in the natural, and once he hit 100 gas, he will put 2 drones off gas, leaving 1 in there for mining, and he will start Zergling speed as soon as he can. Then he will make a set of Zerglings and he will use those to actually kill off the SCV scout. Now basically what you want to do is add the drones back into gas as soon as you can, but first you will need to deny the SCV scout, which should be around the 30 to 40-ish gas, which is the point that you add the drones back in gas. So here we go. I'm currently not playing versus an opponent, so we would usually chase out the SCV scout and we will follow it up with putting drones back in gas. Once the queens spawn, you will use those for injects right away. After the inject pops off, you make a big round of drones, and this should also be when you hit around 100 gas. You want to be using your next 100 gas to go for a Lair, and then you add 3 more gas geysers in all bases. At this point, you also want to start adding a Roach Warren at the front of your natural to make sure you can pump out those Roaches once necessary. The timing of this Roach Warren will actually allow it to line up with the Lair finishing, so you can start Roach speed straight up. Once the gas is finished, you put drones in there straight up, make sure you hit the queen inject, and just keep on droning. Once the Lair finishes, you want to start Glial Reconstitution in the Roach Warren straight away. You want to start the Ventral Sacs upgrade for your Overlord carries, and you also want to stop droning, because this should be the point where you hit max saturation on all your bases, which means 16 drones on minerals and 3 in each gas geyser. So I got 16 in my main, 16 in my natural. All the while after, you also start the Overlord speed upgrade called Pneumatized Carapace. At this point, you start producing only Roaches. Make sure you have all your Overlords together, because obviously you need to be loading up your Roaches into them. So we will be able to put those in right when the Pneumatized Carapace upgrade finishes. Once Roach speed finishes, you want to make sure that you move out with your Roaches. So you want to send your Overlords right to the other side of the map as well as your Roaches. You want to also keep producing more and more units. Once you do this, you also want to start your Nydus Network, which is what you're going to be using to reinforce the army once you're dropping. There we go, my Overlords are moving across the map, I'm still producing more and more Roaches, and I'm making sure that they will arrive here in time. Make sure you have your rally point on top of this Nydus Network, because you want to be reinforcing your army using that. load up your Roaches and actually drop in the main base of your Terran opponent. Now, like I said, in this specific game, there won't actually be an opponent. A small tip that I can give you is to actually click on the Overlords individually while using your unload all button, which is V for me, so that way they will unload properly. And while you're doing that, you will use the Nydus Network and you're gonna keep producing more and more units to make sure that you hit everything that's needed. So while this fight is going on, you can actually use the Nydus Worm in the main base of your opponent to reinforce the army. Make sure you target fire down all the tanks and just straight up kill your opponent. So yeah, that is pretty much it. A relatively easy build order to execute. However, I would advise you to actually open up a custom game and practice this like 5 to 10 times until you can basically dream it, until you don't have to think about it anymore, before you actually jump into a game and you try to execute it against a real opponent. Other than that, if you want the written version of this build order, check the link in the description. It will take you straight to the LowkoTV website and you will be able to just, you know, maybe put it on your second monitor if you have that luxury and you can just read it or you can just write it down or whatever. But you have a much easier time practicing it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button as it helps me out a ton. Other than that, if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button and you will get a little notification as soon as I upload new content. Want to thank you guys all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile. We'll see you in the next video.